Right. Yeah. And I was wondering, the ways of which people have uncovered this whole germ theory versus terrain theory stuff years before
Yeah,
people were exposed to it. Because obviously, my first experience of this whole
yeah.
paradigm shift was 2 years ago. But I was
Mhm.
aware of the sort of corruption and the darkness within
Yeah.
what I was in before, which is the entertainment industry.
Mm.
So when I was listening to people like Crow 777 for a couple of years then, and Owen Benjamin and those kind of guys who were
Mhm.
exposing those kind of things. So when this whole thing unfolded, it was like, oh, okay, so the whole pharmaceutical and health industry is all a lie too. So that's okay for me to kind
Yeah.
of comprehend. And I was genuinely take care of my health. I'm a young guy. I like to keep in shape and go to the gym and all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. But I always find it fascinating people talk about this, and then especially some of the more the more detailed things of the law system and things, your birth certificate and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, man,
Yeah.
could you imagine talking about this before this COVID stuff would be insane.
I was around all that stuff, and I had been for probably 2 decades, and I just didn't talk to people about it because there was no one to talk to other than you bump into someone, sometimes you'd have a chat, but most people thought you had 2 heads and you wore some kind of tinfoil hat and all the rest of it. Because I was looking for answers, I had some problems, to do with the business, to do with the police, and that's really what led me to realize the whole thing was corrupt. And then it was just trying to figure out my way to navigate this thing because it was very dangerous. But there was no one to talk to. It was hard to find any information about it. And so you just kind of, we cracked on. There was a small group of friends I have, and a couple of them were kind of onto the same page of it and figuring stuff out. But that was it. But in the last 2 years, and certainly in the last year, there has been this massive sudden awareness, which is great because it needs to be brought into the people's knowledge, into their consciousness, so that it can be cleansed and dealt with because it's just a problem.
Yes. And, when you were speaking there about just, I find that when people have these worldviews collapse, the problem is they don't know what they've ever built their belief system on. So it's
Hmm.
a strange. It happened to me too, and I was apprehensive about looking at any of these things because I went, "Damn, I'm going to have to find my own way to base my own truth and my own logical systems,
Hmm.
build those so that there's a solid foundation, and then I can look at any problem." But it's completely rebuilding the entire way you look at the world. And I think there's obviously ways that they've sort of, I suppose, constructed the way that we're educated in ways to prevent us from ever
We're
doing
not
that.
educated, we're indoctrinated.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was wondering if you could, if you, have you seen that in your life too, in terms of when
Yeah.
you start to look at those things, you kind of have this whole conceptual shift. And I think that that's why people don't look at these kind of things.
Well, I think so. Yeah. I mean, well, I'm lucky because I don't mind change. In fact, I really enjoy things being different and I enjoy learning new things. So when all this stuff kicked off, as much as I knew that many things were wrong, I decided let's come from the place of assuming that everything is wrong, that we've been lied to about everything. And then I must re educate myself across every single topic. And with that kind of approach for me, it wasn't that difficult to realize that, yeah, excuse me for swearing, it's a fucking mess. But that's what it is. So you don't have to change your whole worldview. I think that will change over time. Just start with something simple, like realizing you don't catch things. Contagion's a myth. That you don't go to school to be educated. You go to be indoctrinated. And you can just build up and build up and build up on that, and you can go as deep or shallow as you want into it. That's what I did. Some days I wanted to go deep. Other days I was appalled and repulsed, so I stepped back a bit.